we are going to start autoimmune liver diseases. So we already know what is an autoimmune disease, right? Autoimmune is a process when the body fails to recognize self from non-self, or autoimmune disease is an illness that causes the immune system to produce antibodies that attack normal tissues. So there are various autoimmune diseases. Right here is a picture of autoimmune diseases, of common autoimmune diseases. For example, psoriasis over skin, thyroiditis, Hashimoto's disease, multiple sclerosis, Guillain-Barré syndrome, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, right? Lupus erythematosus, right? Systemic lupus erythematosus, SLE. So autoimmune diseases, these are some common autoimmune diseases. Today we are going to study autoimmune liver diseases. Autoimmune liver diseases. So liver diseases, certain category of liver diseases are caused by autoimmune process. These autoimmune liver diseases can be categorized into two, where first category, autoimmune hepatitis, is the category where hepatocytes are affected, right? The autoimmune process damages the hepatocytes. And the second autoimmune disease category is where the autoimmune process damages the hepatic biliary tree. So see, these hepatic lobules, right? When the hepatocytes, when the autoimmune process damages the liver cells, it is the category 1 and it is called as autoimmune hepatitis. When the autoimmune process damages the biliary tree, right? Biliary tree, the the hepatic lobules makes canaliculus makes canals, and then ductules, then ducts, then right hepatic duct, left hepatic duct, common hepatic duct, right? Then common bile duct, and it opens into the duodenum through the sphincter of Oddi. So second category is autoimmune cholangiopathies, when the autoimmune process damages the biliary tree, right? So first is autoimmune hepatitis and second is autoimmune cholangiopathies. So autoimmune hepatitis, let us study autoimmune hepatitis. So as the name is telling, hepatitis, so if there is hepatitis, that means inflammation of the liver, right? Just like in um, uh, viral hepatitis. So autoimmune hepatitis is a chronic disorder characterized by hepatocellular necrosis and inflammation. So hepatocellular inflammation is the main process, and it is accompanied with fibrosis, right? Deposition of fibrin in the liver cells. So usually with fibrosis, which can progress to ultimately cirrhosis and liver failure. Cirrhosis and liver failure we will study, right? We will study once again in the coming lectures, cirrhosis and liver failure. So why this autoimmune hepatitis, or what are the risk factors for autoimmune hepatitis? So as usual, HLA associations, right? If HLA associations are there in someone's genes, then they are genetically predisposed to get autoimmune hepatitis. Young women are most commonly affected by this, right? And if some other illness, some other autoimmune illness is present in the body, like autoimmune thyroiditis, like Hashimoto disease, SLE, right? Along, if these autoimmune diseases are already present in someone, then they are also susceptible to get autoimmune hepatitis, right? So the trigger is viral infections, right? After a viral infection, the autoimmune process is triggered, or after a drug or after a toxin exposure, the autoimmune process is triggered and the person develops autoimmune hepatitis. So the types of autoimmune hepatitis, it can be categorized, it can be divided into two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is mainly found in middle-aged women and is associated with anti-nuclear antibodies, right? That means in such patients the antibodies will be the antibodies that will be found in the blood serum are, excuse me, anti-nuclear antibodies and anti-smooth muscle antibodies, right? Anti-smooth muscle antibodies. Whereas type 2 is common in children. Autoimmune hepatitis happening in children, it is type 2, and it will be having a different antibody production, that will be anti-liver kidney microsomal autoantibodies, anti-LKMI, anti-liver kidney microsomal autoantibodies, right? So ASMA, anti-smooth muscle antibody, anti-smooth muscle antibody, right? Anti-smooth muscle antibody, and in type 2 anti-liver kidney microsomal antibody, right? So pathogenesis is same as that of other autoimmune diseases, where the antigen presenting cells present the self antigen, the self body protein to the T helper cells, and those T helper cells signals the T cytotoxic cells to destroy that particular cell, from which that protein or that self antigen has come. So CD4 plus T lymphocytes are capable of becoming sensitized, they become modified to destroy the hepatocytes themselves, right? Hepatocytes itself. So they destroy the healthy hepatocytes and they destroy the liver. So clinical features, so now it is hepatitis, right? Autoimmune hepatitis, so features will be more or less same as that of viral hepatitis, right? So acute progression, so the symptoms, they can appear in two fashion. One is acute progression of symptoms, the person is acutely showing some symptoms, that is in the cases of 40%, and in some people the symptoms are chronically. In 60% patients, the onset of symptoms will be insidious, it will be gradual, right? So when it comes acutely, when suddenly the person starts developing liver disorder, then the person shows the signs and symptoms of acute liver failure, right? And when it is chronic, then the person shows the signs and symptoms of cirrhosis. So acute liver failure we will discuss in detail, and cirrhosis also we will discuss in detail in next lecture. So right now, the autoimmune hepatitis person might suffer with fatigue, malaise, anorexia, amenorrhea, acne, arthralgia, and jaundice, right? Occasionally, arthritis, maculopapular eruptions, right? That is small dot-like structures over the body. Arthritis is joint pain, bone pain, right? Then colitis, pleurisy, right? Pleurisy is, you have to get it, pleurisy by yourself, right? I have taught this pleurisy. Pericarditis, right? Anemia. So all these symptoms might occur occasionally. Then if a person is having chronic progression, right, the disease is setting slowly, then certain complications of cirrhosis like ascites, right, edema of the body, encephalopathy, right? We will study about this encephalopathy, hepatic encephalopathy also in detail, right? Encephalopathy means damage to CNS. Hypersplenism, coagulopathy, or varicose bleeding, right? Hypersplenism, spleen becomes big. Coagulopathies, right? Why? Because liver produces vitamin K via varicose bleeding and various internal and external factors. Then varicose bleeding, right, from the varices from the esophageal varices, there will be bleeding because of the increased portal hypertension. Don't worry, we will study about this mechanism once again. Then what are the investigations for autoimmune hepatitis? So since there is jaundice, so bilirubin could be elevated, right? Elevated bilirubin, it will be raised from the upper limit of the normal, that is 1.1, 1.2. Then the aminotransferases, the hepatocytic destruction will cause to raise the aminotransferases, right? ALT and AST, or SGOT and SGPT, right? One and the same thing. ALT, AST levels will be raised because of the hepatic tissue destruction, right? They will be in the ranges of 100 to 1000 depending on the severity. And then alkaline phosphatase might be moderately elevated. The important characteristic is hypergammaglobulinemia, right? The important characteristic is hypergammaglobulinemia. Hypergammaglobulinemia, right? The patient will be having high levels of globulins, right? You remember there were two types of proteins, albumin and globulin. So whenever the albumin is decreased, we say it is because of the liver, because liver manufactures albumin, right? Whenever globulins are increased, right? Whenever globulin levels in the body are increased, we say liver is disease. So what kind of disease? Autoimmune hepatitis. And also in chronic liver diseases, this gamma globulins, they become high. That is why the ratio of albumin and globulin changes. It is reversed in chronic liver diseases and in autoimmune hepatitis. So the globulins will be raised, hypergamma globulin, they will be more than the 2.5 gram per dl, right? Antibodies such as ASMA and anti-LKMI, right? These antibodies which we have already studied, ASMA for type 1 and anti-LKMI for type 2, they will be increased. Anti-smooth muscle antibody and anti-liver kidney microsomal autoantibodies. Rheumatoid factors, we will also check rheumatoid factor, SLE and ANA, although they are non-specific for autoimmune hepatitis, but since other autoimmune diseases are also the cause for setting off autoimmune hepatitis, so we will check these markers also. But the first antibody marker that we will check is ASMA and anti-LKMI for autoimmune hepatitis. Students, never forget ASMA, asthma, right? Asthma, look at the sun, look at the sky, asthma, right? Liver biopsy, we will also do liver biopsy. Liver biopsy in fact is the gold standard, and in liver biopsy we will see the chronic hepatitis features. We will see certain lobules and certain other features, certain morphological features, and the things will get confirmed by liver biopsy as well. So before starting the autoimmune cholangiopathies, which includes the autoimmune destruction of the biliary tree, let us study what are the bile ducts. So bile ducts, these bile ducts can be divided into two: intrahepatic bile ducts and extrahepatic bile ducts. Intrahepatic bile ducts and extrahepatic bile ducts. So intrahepatic means, intra means in the liver, hepatic means liver, intrahepatic. So intrahepatic bile ducts are these: the canaliculi, the ductules, right? This is liver lobule, then canaliculi, then ductules, then ducts, right? Then right hepatic duct, left hepatic duct, right? It is making common bile duct, right? So the ducts present in the liver are intrahepatic, whereas the ducts which are present outside the liver are extrahepatic liver. Extrahepatic bile ducts. Extrahepatic bile ducts. Excuse me. Extrahepatic bile ducts, right? This includes common hepatic duct, common bile duct, right? Cystic duct. All these ducts are extrahepatic. So this is hepatobiliary tree. So let us study autoimmune cholangiopathies. Autoimmune cholangiopathies. So the autoimmune process which destroys the biliary tree can be divided. These diseases are of two types. One is primary biliary cirrhosis and second is primary sclerosing cholangitis, right? Just the way we divided autoimmune hepatitis into type 1 and type 2, although the clinical features were same as that of type 1 and type 2, only the manifestation is different. Type 1 happens in women whereas type 2 happens in children, right? So similarly, this autoimmune cholangiopathies can be divided into two diseases which are primary biliary cirrhosis PBC and primary sclerosing cholangitis PSC. So primary biliary cirrhosis first. So primary biliary cirrhosis is where the intrahepatic bile ducts are destroyed by the autoimmune process, right? The inflammatory processes and the non-suppurative processes, right? The autoimmune processes destroys the intrahepatic bile ducts, right? That is why it is also called as biliary cirrhosis, right? Cirrhosis is scarring. Cirrhosis is like burning, right? Cirrhosis of what? Biliary apparatus, biliary tree. Most commonly found is middle-aged women. The triggers are unknown and the antibodies which are raised in the body are anti-mitochondrial antibodies. Anti-mitochondrial antibodies, right? So pathogenesis, medium and small bile duct in liver are infiltrated with lymphocytes as usual and they undergo duct destruction, right? So these T helper cell excuse me, T helper cell which has gone rogue will produce certain cytotoxic cells which will go and destroy the intrahepatic bile ducts. Excuse me. Right? So what will happen? The intrahepatic ducts will be destroyed and there will be progressive loss of intrahepatic bile ducts leading to cirrhosis of the liver, right? And since these bile ducts are lost, there will be stasis of bile, right? Cholestasis, right? And the liver will ultimately progress into cirrhosis. So biliary cirrhosis will ultimately generate liver cirrhosis, right? And when liver is cirrhosed, the person will develop portal hypertension, the person will develop certain other complications of cirrhosis like ascites, right? So all these things will happen, right? So these are intrahepatic bile ducts. So you can see these intrahepatic bile ducts, they become scarred, they become cirrhosed, right? So biliary cirrhosis will set in primary biliary cirrhosis, PBC disease. So then the clinical features. So the autoimmune hepatitis, it was having two presentations. One was acute presentation where the person will develop acute liver failure because of the excessive destruction of the liver tissues, and in the second it was the chronic gradual onset where the person will progress into cirrhosis. So in this clinical feature, most of the patients are asymptomatic. In this also the presentation is of two types. One is asymptomatic presentation and other is symptomatic presentation, right? So some of the patients, they will present asymptomatically, whereas some of the patients will present with symptoms. So asymptomatic patients, they will just show their abnormal liver function tests. So they will come for some other disease, some other liver problem, and you will find the liver function test as abnormal. The elevated, you will find the serum alkaline phosphatase, right, ALP, and gamma glutamyl transferase, GGT, right, also called as gamma glutamyl transpeptidase. So these alkaline phosphatase and gamma glutamyl transferase, if you remember, I have told you these are the markers for cholestasis, right? Whenever there is cholestasis, these two enzymes will go up, their levels go high. So they will be elevated, right, without any obvious cause, and there will be hypercholesterolemia also. Cholesterolemia means hyper levels of cholesterol, and AMA, anti-mitochondrial antibodies, right, specific for PBC. So anti-mitochondrial antibodies will be present, right? However, liver biopsy confirms the PBC. And when the person will be symptomatic, then the presentation will be insidious. Insidious means it will be gradual. The person will present with fatigue, right? The hallmark, the most characteristic feature, not the hallmark, the most characteristic feature of liver disease is fatigue, pruritus, right? Pruritus is itching, and jaundice. Why pruritus? Because cholestasis leads to pruritus because of the deposition of bile salts in the skin, which increases slowly over time. Pruritus is seen in approximately 50% because there is biliary cirrhosis, right? The biliary apparatus is damaged, so there will be inadequate release of bile, and that will into the bile circulate into the intestine, so leading to the raised bile levels in the blood, leading to pruritus. So 50% of patients will be having pruritus, right? So pruritus, if seen in a liver disease patient, it indicates cholestasis, and since cholestasis is the main feature of primary biliary cirrhosis, the person will be suffering with 50% of the persons will be suffering with pruritus, right? And it will be more in the evening. The other features of primary biliary cirrhosis are hyperpigmentation. The person will be having dark spots over trunks and arm, over the trunk and the arm, and then xanthelsma and xanthomatas, right? We have already discussed xanthelsma, right? The small pockets under the eye, xanthelsma, and xanthomatas, the small tender nodules over the tendons, for example, over the elbow, xanthomata. Then abdominal discomfort, steatorrhea, right? Steatorrhea, right? That is the feces mixed with fats, because there will be less absorption of the fats, so the person will be having steatorrhea. Nutritional deficiencies, right? Nutritional deficiencies will be there because when the fat is not absorbed properly, so the fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E, K, which are dissolved in fats, which are the sources are from fats, so the person will become deficient in these, and there will be certain nutritional deficiencies of these vitamins, right? Then when this primary biliary cirrhosis will cause liver cirrhosis, then the person will be having the complications of liver cirrhosis, right? Splenomegaly, ascites, edema. So what are the investigations from primary biliary cirrhosis, PBC? So primary biliary cirrhosis, the investigations will be increased levels of enzymes which represents cholestasis in liver. So serum alkaline phosphatase, gamma glutamyl transferase, GGT, hypercholesterolemia, anti-mitochondrial antibodies, and moderate mild elevations in ALT and AST, which are non-specific, right? Symptomatic cases also, these things will be positive, plus there will be hyperbilirubinemia, right? There will be thrombocytopenia, right? Thrombocytopenia, always remember, thrombopoietin is produced by liver, so thrombocytopenia, leukopenia, right? Overall leukocytes will be less, anemia, portal hypertension, hepatomegaly, splenomegaly. So the next autoimmune cholangiopathy is primary sclerosing cholangitis. Sorry, it is PSC, it is not PBC, it is a mistake. PSC. This is S. PSC. S. PSC. PSC is characterized by diffuse inflammation and fibrosis of entire biliary tree. So primary biliary cirrhosis, the previous disease, it was the autoimmune destruction of intrahepatic bile ducts, whereas this primary sclerosing cholangitis is complete, the full tree, the complete hepatic tree, the intrahepatic and the extrahepatic bile ducts all are inflamed and fibrosed, right? So pathogenesis will be more or less the same. Just in this case, the damage will be to all the liver ducts, to all the bile ducts, right? So when all the bile ducts are damaged, the person will develop biliary cirrhosis first, right? And after biliary cirrhosis, the person will develops cirrhosis as a result, liver cirrhosis, right? So liver will be decompensated, and the manifestations of liver cirrhosis like ascites, esophageal variceal hemorrhage, right? There will be varices in the esophagus at the junction of the stomach and the esophagus. There will be varices, and that will bleed, and the person will go into esophageal variceal hemorrhage, and person will develop certain CN manifestations, encephalopathies, right? Inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, it is also an autoimmune disease. Inflammatory bowel disease, an inflammatory bowel disease of ulcerative colitis, right? Ulcerative colitis is an inflammatory bowel disease. Inflammatory bowel disease contains two diseases, ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. So if somebody is suffering with this ulcerative colitis, then he might suffer with PSC, primary sclerosing cholangitis, as well. So 70% of the individuals of PSC might be having ulcerative colitis and vice versa, right? So the pathogenesis is almost the same. The T cell activity will damage the mucosa of patients with ulcerative colitis, right? This intestinal mucosa we are talking about, and these T cells will go to the liver and they will destroy the bile ducts as well, right? The autoantibodies which will be high, which will be responsible for the destruction, are anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibodies. Anti-neutrophil perinuclear, in fact the complete is atypical perinuclear anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibodies, PANCA. PANCA, anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibodies, targeting a nuclear envelope protein, right? And they are found in 65% of the patients. So PANCA is PANCA, perinuclear anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibodies, right? Perinuclear anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibodies, if they are present, that means person is suffering with primary sclerosing cholangitis, PSC, right? Once again, perinuclear anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibodies. Right? Clinical features, since it is the autoimmune destruction of the bile ducts, then the features will be of cholestasis. So pruritus will be feature, fatigue will be feature, jaundice will be feature, steatorrhea, right? Deficiency of fat soluble vitamins, right? Cholelithiasis, the person might develop cholelithiasis, that is the stones in the gallbladder. Cholangiocarcinoma, right? The cancer of the bile ducts. Chronic pancreatitis might also manifest, and chronic cholecystitis might also manifest as a consequence, as a sequelae, right? As a sequelae, as further progression, these things are also possible. Cholelithiasis, cholangiocarcinoma, chronic pancreatitis, and chronic cholecystitis. Then we have investigations. So since the levels of bilirubin will be raised in blood, you can very well imagine why, because the bile ducts are sclerosed. Excuse me. Elevated bilirubins, elevated aminotransferases, right, the enzymes for detecting cholestasis, the elevated bilirubin, elevated alkaline phosphatases, the enzyme for cholestasis. Then aminotransferases ALT and AST will also be raised, because ultimately the biliary cirrhosis will lead to liver cirrhosis, and liver cirrhosis, these ALTs and ASTs might be increased. That PNCA, right, anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibodies, they will be found positive in 60 to 65% of the cases. And cholangiographic imaging, right, so we do imaging of the bile tree, right, so we do MRI with MRCP. MRCP is magnetic resonance cholangiopancreatography, where we see the bile tree and the pancreas, right, we see particularly them in MRI. We call that as MRCP, magnetic resonance cholangiopancreatography, right. In fact, we put some dye also into the biliary tree, and we see the it in MRIs. Not dye, the fluorescent agents. And then ERCP is endoscopic retrograde cholangiopancreatography, right? Endoscopic, right? Endoscopically, we put an endoscopic device into the biliary tree, right? From the mouth, we put a device, right? We put an endoscope, and we direct that endoscope into the biliary tree to see the structure of the biliary tree, right? Whether the biliary tree is damaged, inflamed, scarred. So multifocal structuring and beadings, right? Bead-like productions. There will be certain beads, right? Bead-like things in the biliary tree, which can be seen in ERCP. So MRCP and ERCP are the choice of investigation for detecting primary sclerosing cholangitis. So here we compare the primary sclerosing cholangitis and primary biliary cirrhosis. So where shall I put this? Here or here, right? So primary biliary cirrhosis, median and primary sclerosing cholangitis, both are autoimmune cholangiopathies, where the autoimmune destruction of the bile duct leads to two manifestations, PBC and PSC. PBC manifests when there is only involvement of intrahepatic bile ducts, and PSC manifests when there is involvement of both intrahepatic and extrahepatic bile ducts. So in primary biliary cirrhosis, the age is 50 years approximately, the affecting age is 50 years, whereas in this is 30 years. In this, mostly females are affected, whereas PSC mostly males are affected, right? Both are progressive, right? Both are progressive. Then primary biliary cirrhosis is always, or most of the time, 70%, it is connected with other autoimmune disease called as Jorgen's syndrome, whereas primary sclerosing cholangitis is always, or most of the time, it is connected with inflammatory bowel disease, right? Ulcerative colitis, right? Ulcerative colitis of the inflammatory bowel disease, right? So 70%, there will be the association of inflammatory bowel disease, and PBC, there will be the association of Jorgen's syndrome. Then serology. So the most important antibodies, autoantibodies that will be found is anti-mitochondrial antibodies, AMA, whereas in this, the most important antibodies that will be found is ANCA, anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibodies, right? So AMA and ANCA, 65% cases it will be found positive, and in 95% of the cases AMA will be found, right? Apart from this, ANA and ANCA, they are not very specific for this, and AMA and ANA are not very specific for this, right? So radiology, in radiology MRCP, it will be normal, whereas in MRCP, magnetic resonance cholangiopancreatography, there will be strictures and beadings. There will be small bead-like structures in large bile ducts, right? So and duct lesions, the inflammatory destructions of both extrahepatic and intrahepatic, whereas in primary biliary cirrhosis, there will be only intrahepatic ducts loss. So let us summarize them. So autoimmune liver diseases are two types: autoimmune hepatitis and autoimmune cholangiopathies. Autoimmune hepatitis, where the liver cells, the hepatocytes, are destroyed, are affected by the autoimmune process, whereas autoimmune cholangiopathies, where the bile system, where the bile duct system, the bile ducts are affected by the autoimmune process. Autoimmune hepatitis, the antibodies, the autoantibodies that which are present are ASMA and anti-LKMI, anti-smooth muscle antibody, and anti-liver kidney microsomal autoantibodies. Whereas in autoimmune cholangiopathies, in PBC there will be anti-mitochondrial antibodies AMA, and in PSC ANCA, anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibodies. Right? Some more information if you want to study some more information. See why it is called as primary biliary cirrhosis, primary sclerosing cholangitis, because this happens at the primary level, right? This happens at the primary level. That means there is no previous disease, there is no previous liver disease than this, right? Primary biliary cirrhosis means the person's liver will be otherwise healthy. Apart from this disease, there will be no comorbidities pertaining to liver disease, right? So liver was all right before having PBC and PSC, so that is why they are called as primary. But in some liver diseases, this PBC and PSC, they happens because of the liver disease, right? So if, for example, if suppose somebody is having gallstones for a very long time, somebody is having strictures, some idiopathic strictures in their bile duct from a very long time, or somebody is having carcinoma, right? Or somebody is having even primary sclerosing cholangitis from a very long time, then the person might develop secondary biliary cirrhosis, right? So the condition, the biliary cirrhosis, which arises because of the primary problem, primary liver problem, primary some other liver problem, for example stones, for example strictures, right, leading to biliary cirrhosis, then it will be labeled as secondary biliary cirrhosis. Similarly, secondary sclerosing cholangitis may occur due to previous liver diseases like bile duct surgeries, like strictures, like bile duct stones, intrahepatic infections, intrahepatic injections, and AIDS, right? So such conditions, such biliary cirrhosis and such sclerosing cholangitis will be called as secondary biliary cirrhosis and secondary sclerosing cholangitis, right? For your additional information. So that's it for today. Keep focused and keep studying. Thank you.